everyone, we're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Hinson.
I'm Dr. Donnelly.
And welcome to our second video review for Pride Month. We are spending the month talking about narratives and representation for LGBTQ plus identities and stories and thoughts and feelings. And we have one of our favorite movies up today, like full stop favorite movies. It is pure joy. It is called Pride for Pride Month. Woo! And it follows the story of a group of LGBTQ activists who decide to start fundraising for miners during the National Union of Mine Workers strike, which was in the summer of 1984 in the United Kingdom, so over in the UK.
Specifically in Wales.
Yes, so they eventually find a particular group of miners, the Onluan miners, I don't speak Welsh, in the Dulas Valley. So they decide out of solidarity, these people are being treated similarly to how we're being treated. The police were going in to break up the mining protests. So they were facing police brutality, discrimination, all of these things. And an enterprising group of young gay activists decide, you know what,
we're going to adopt a village.
They are just like us and they need our help just like we need their help. So we're going to start fundraising, and they form a group called Lesbians and Gays Support the Miners.
This is a true story, by the way. Like once again,
and it is absolute joy.
Top to bottom joy.
Start to finish.
Yep.
You will love it. There are Welsh accents.
There's a really great, you can play the great game of, oh, it's that British actor.
Yes. There's loads of British actors that you know.
Andrew Scott from
Fleabag, if you're watching Fleabag.
And from Sherlock. He's Moriarty in Sherlock. He plays the bookstore owner.
It's delightful.
Bill Nighy.
Imelda Staunton is unreal.
Essentially.
Yes.
If you enjoy stories, our entry into this, by the way, is a young man who's struggling with his own sexuality, and he's kind of our foray into this conversation.
Yes, and happens upon this group of young people. He goes to Pride in London, to the Pride Parade, and just happens to meet these young men who then start, fundraising for the miners, and then he just gets kind of swept up into the momentum of the group.
This is less than 20 years after homosexuality was decriminalized in the United Kingdom too, so that's an important, it was decriminalized in 1967 and we're in 1984, so it's still really fresh. And so they deal with that a little bit as well, which is really fascinating.
Yeah.
But if you like stories where unlikely people come together to solve problems, if you enjoy adorable stories of people being themselves.
Yes. Or finding themselves.
Perhaps with an accompaniment of singing. And Welsh accents.
Yes.
We simply cannot recommend this highly. Oh, Dominic West, too?
Dominic West is in it. Dominic West plays Jonathan Blake, who was the second person diagnosed with HIV in the United Kingdom. He tells the story of when they first were diagnosing the disease, they used to give people numbers up until, I think he said the thousands, and then there got to be so many that they stopped giving numbers, and he just goes, and I'm number 2. But he lived, I think he's still alive or died recently, but they couldn't really figure out why he lived so long with the disease when so many people died. But that does become a part of the story. And really, in terms of LGBTQ representation, the overarching theme of the story is understanding people as people. And it's a story about just seeing the humanness in them. There's a lot of the kind of back and forth between the Welsh miners and their family that form a relationship with these people, of dispelling stereotypes, lesbian stereotypes, drag stereotypes, all of these kinds of intersections of queer life. And kind of these people in a small Welsh village have no interaction with it. But they come at it with a perspective, most of them anyway, of empathy and understanding and kindness and acceptance, which is beautiful. This is obviously in a conservative Welsh mining town in the 1980s, there are people who are homophobic and who do not want the help and support of these groups. And so they deal with that as well. They deal with some violence and intimidation from some of the
and
miners'
also
families.
Yeah, and some of the activists don't want to have some very strong stereotypes about the miners, and very strong stereotypes even about the Welsh. And, you know, we need to remember always, especially in narratives around queer experiences, that stereotypes go a lot of ways. And that the more voices we bring to the table, the more we understand each other and the stronger the world becomes. And this is an incredible example of that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the bulk of the story, is really about these people finding commonality and love and support and solidarity in their struggles to be heard and recognized and legitimized. The miners' strike ends in 1985, and the most beautiful thing that happens at the end of the movie is that all of the Welsh miners, the National Welsh Miners organizations, bring all of their members to Pride. So similarly to our last movies that we talked about in our last video, this movie is bookended by 1984's Pride and 1985's Pride parades, marches in London. And the mining union shows up in full force to Pride in 1985 in this line of,
and like still does.
You showed up for us, we will show up for you. And they had so many people show up that they had to take over the front of the London Pride Parade.
And London Pride is a time, man.
Yeah.
Like, it is London and Brighton Prides are the two biggest in England, just a heads up.
Yeah.
And,
so it's a really, really
so
powerful, symbolic moment of,
Yeah.
solidarity and love and support for everybody's issues. The movie deals a little bit with AIDS. I mean, they talk about Jonathan, and then one of the main characters finds out that he has contracted, they don't disclose HIV or AIDS, but just you contracted the disease, and eventually, as the real person does, dies in the 1990s, I think. Or no, shortly after his diagnosis. So by 1987, I think he's dead. So they deal with it tangentially, as it is ever present as a part of life in the gay world in the 1990s and in the whole world in the 1980s, although we weren't really talking about it. And our next film that we will be talking about deals all with that, the discovery of the disease and its impact in the 1980s. But I think that's all we have for Pride.
Just go watch it, y'all.
Just go watch it. It's on Amazon Prime.
It's a great sit.
It's fantastic. If you want to learn how to say
talcum powder
with a Welsh accent, that's pretty much the only thing I can say in a Welsh accent, but it's beautiful.
Guys, it's just so good.
But that's really all we have for now. I am Dr. Hinson.
I'm Dr. Donnelly.
We're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research, and we will see you for And the Band Played On.
Bye.
Bye.